An Austin Bowie legend, turned into a Longhorn legend. 50 career games, 28 career starts in Austin, eighth all-time leading tackler in program history. Also, I didn't even know this till this morning. The record holder for most blocked kicks with 8, which stands second all-time in NCAA Division I history. All-American, All Big 12 career was highlighted by his interception versus USC in Texas' most recent Natty win. In the 19th pick in the '07 draft, played for Titans, Vikings, Panthers, All-Pro, two-time Pro Bowler. Now residing in the Lake Travis area, shout out the Cavs. His children will be Cavaliers and helps the GG's Cupcakes, also partakes MotoGP, helps coach some 7-on-7 too. How are we doing this morning, Griff?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Just working on this sunburn, getting some aloe on me, but we've seen worse. So you've seen me worse with looking like a lobster. So
Well, the
just getting
good thing
through it.
is you working through the sunburn. The last couple of weeks, we've been out there to 7-on-7. It's been cold, so this was the first weekend we actually got to wear some short sleeves. So that was a perfect weekend for us.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, we're obviously going to talk about Duane Akina. I know we chopped it up about him a little bit this weekend, but first, wanted to hear a little about your combine experience. I remember you telling me you had to get over 200 pounds, right? And
Yeah, I
so
was
you
my
pounding water
last
bottles. What was the story there?
man. I mean, if people know my last game in college history, I was 183 pounds, and I pretty much played my whole collegiate career at like 180 some pounds or whatnot. They had me listed at 205, but that was all a lie. But I just know leading up to the to combine. I mean, I played in the Senior Bowl. They had me drinking like 2 protein shakes slash eating double. I mean, it was and to make matters worse, I think I could only bench press like because I did not bench press in college, so I think I could only bench 225 like maybe 2 or 3 times, but I ended up getting 16, I believe, in the combine. So
Yeah.
I pretty much had to work my tail off when it came to getting ready for the combine and preparing for it. I mean, the film showed, but it was just like y'all said, the numbers is what they're trying to see if they all compare and they all come together. So I was blessed to be able to. I think I ran a 4.46 or 4.45 or something at 202, and 30. I think it was 36-inch vertical, 10-foot broad jump. Uh, One of the fastest three-cone drills, which is why when I was drafted, they thought I could play corner right off the rip just because of the three-cone drill. And but literally just showed the agility, the ability, and things of that nature. So it was I tell you what, it's like a job interview, but it's like the most treacherous job interview you can think of when it comes to every injury you may have had from high school. I mean, I broke my ankle my sophomore year. They were reevaluating my ankle to see how that was. Had the neck injury in the national championship game. I mean, I was in the MRI machines. They thought I had a heart condition, so they had me running on the treadmill to check that out. I mean, it's just every single thing. I mean, they're about to dump a lot of money into you, but they want to make sure they get their investment and get it correct. So it's just a 3-day process that you're just grinding it out of just, hey, listen, just one more day, one more day, one more day. That's just how it goes and that's how it operates. But this day and age is kind of crazy. Back in the day, everybody used to you're running your 40, you're doing your bench press, you're doing everything. This day and age, is I mean, I understand it from both sides. It's if as an individual, you're a business, and as these teams, they're a business. So everybody's making the best decisions when it comes to them individually, because we all know how the game is and the longevity of playing in the National Football League. So I totally understand what everybody's doing.
Yeah, so you went 4.47 was the official time in the 40. Do you remember what it was when you first ran it, like in January during like pre-combine training, and like what the time difference was?
I don't know. I mean, they got me. Suppose I ran a 10.6 in the 100 in high school, and that's on Wikipedia. I don't know what the hell I ran. I mean, that's what they said I ran, uh, and I'm going to live with that. But at the end of the day, I mean, if somebody can play football, in my opinion, whether they're big, short, small, fat, whatever it is, they can play football. That's just what it is. Now, if you're a freak of nature, the 6'5" that can run a 4.3, you always have that coach that feels like they can turn, make some Kool-Aid or lemonade or whatever that special drink is out of that person because they have that athleticism ability. But I've seen it. We drafted guys that was 6'5" receiver that runs a 4.4, and he gets there and he just never pans out. A guy like Henry Melton, who played a long time for the Chicago Bears, he came into Texas as a running back, transferred over to the defense side of the ball, ran I think a 4.6 at 280 something pounds, and Lovie Smith turned him into a great defensive tackle for the Chicago Bears. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But, guys like the Honey Badger, who was, you would look at him as today's day as a defensive back, very, very undersized, but the guy can play football. Highest paid safety in the league right now is 5'9". Has the pedigree. His dad played for the Vikings. Winfield that plays for the Tampa Bay. So you can play football. You can play football. I'm a strong believer of that. I've seen guys that don't have the measurables and things, but can play football. And I've seen the guys that have everything you can dream of and just can't pan out. Like whether they can't understand the plays, they just can't get right. The mental aspect of it that they just can't get over. That each and every day is a grind. Off the field issues, whatever it is. I mean, it's just you got to have all the pieces and puzzles put together in order to play this game.
No doubt.
And one part about the combine I'd be curious to ask you about is the formal meetings and them trying to get to know you and asking you interesting questions. Was there anything in those formal meetings that kind of took you off guard?
I met with the Chiefs. That might have been the funniest. I remember playing against Ted Ginn, one of my good friends. Played with him in Carolina and played against him in the same draft. Ohio State. I remember I was playing Ohio State at home my senior year. He ran a slant, and Aaron Ross was covering him. And Ross, like when he caught it, Ross ran to the goal line. Like it was like a 70-yard play or something. I took my angle to go make the tackle. Ted Ginn outran the angle. And then I'm chasing him all the way. And then Ross comes back into play. And it's kind of funny because I'm thinking to myself, wait, you were covering. How are you already at the goal line waiting to make a tackle? And we laughed about it, me and Ross did. But the coach asked me, Kansas City coach, what was you thinking when you, like, why did you not do what Ross did? I was like, Coach, I don't know. I just didn't realize. Like, I knew he was fast, but 0 to 60 fast was just a little different. Like that type of speed is just different. I mean, some guys just have it, like the Xavier Worthy. I know Deshaun Jackson didn't. I don't know what his actual 40 time was, but playing against him on the field, I mean, his 0 to 60 speed is just unbelievable. So some guys just have a different gear when it comes to playing the game of football, and Ted Ginn was one of those guys.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, he had a crazy kind of career arc, the position switches, kick return, punt return, all that. And Nick, his power went out of his house, so he's doing the show off service. So if we lose him for a bit, that's why. But with the combine, Jahdae Barron tore it up. No one really expected him to go 4.39 except maybe himself and Bam, maybe you. Drew Makuba had a pretty good day too. A lot of people thought he was going to run 4.5s, and he went I think 4.46. What did you think of getting to see those two guys? You get some behind the scenes access at practice, obviously. Hear things, see things a lot of the public doesn't. What did you think and make of their two combine performances?
I think that with both of them, I think what they bring to the table is just that they're all around complete defensive back. And what I mean by that is Jahdae Barron's played the nickel position. He's played the star position, which is pretty much like a, safety slash. They had him at the point of attack. Has been out there on the island on the corner position. I strongly believe that he can play safety. He has great ball skills. Makuba also is a guy that started out at Clemson as a corner, started as a true freshman at a big-time program, made his way back to the University of Texas, had an outstanding career his 1 year there at the University of Texas. But I think both of them has put a lot of film out there. And when I say film, I mean a lot of film out there that they could do a lot of different things. So the combine, I think, was a plus, seeing their speed, seeing their agilities and things of that nature. But I think once you turn the tape on, Makuba, you may look at him and say, he's 180 something pounds or whatnot, but you see that he can withstand and make the big hits, but at the same time can tackle, make big plays like he did versus Arizona State when it counted. The big play versus Georgia versus the running back and against the quarterback that came in where he made a big hit. But you can see that he could do a lot of things. Jade Barron, he could play the nickel position. Kind of reminds me of Quandre Diggs. I know they just kind of put him as what Branch does for Detroit Lions. Also, if you look at Jalen Petrie, another guy that played for Baylor, who did a phenomenal job for the Houston Texans. I see Jade Barron having that type of impact when it comes to whatever team he plays for. A guy that if we can line him up and have him at the point of attack, whether we need to blitz him, the screen game, he needs to cover, whatever it may be. Maybe if we need him to play safety, like Quandre Diggs was able to make that transition from playing nickel, moving to the safety position, and still have an outstanding career. So I see both guys with the possibility of just if you get them on the team, I think that you can move them around in different pieces. Being that if you have injuries over here, okay, we can get by with a game over here. If we need this, we could do that. So what they did and what they have done, I think the film and what they did at the combine shows. So I think they have a bright career ahead of them.
No doubt. Well, Texas obviously brought back Duane Akina, the architect of DBU. Obviously, coached you in Austin, recruited you there, and helped you get to the NFL. What was your initial reaction to seeing he was hired back? Did you get a heads up before it broke on Twitter, or what was your reaction? How'd it go down?
Got a heads up prior, but I mean, speaking to people and things and hearing things, I think me and Coach Akina spoke prior, and I think he said, the two places that he would love to either be is Arizona or um, which he did last year. He stayed Arizona or Texas. I know he's had a place. I know his son. I didn't realize it, but his son is still coaching at one of the local high schools here in the Austin area. So um, very familiar grounds with him, and we all know that when he does recruit, he likes to recruit the state of Texas. So I think it just makes him a little bit easier being here at home in Texas. So, but excited for him to be able to come back. I think. It's going to be getting used to when it comes to the players. But again, if you go back the way Blake Gideon coached and his attitude and his demeanor and his excitement, I think that's where Blake kind of gets that excitement from, and I think they're going to get totally used to it. It's just going to be coming from I'm gonna call it the Godfather rather than coming from like a father figure with Blake being younger, but definitely excited for him and just to see what this program. And
Hey,
watching this program.
there it goes. Never mind. Sorry,
Yes.
you cut out for a sec, but I think we're good
Oh,
now.
I'm
My
sorry.
bad.
I'm sorry. I think it was somebody was trying to call me. But I was just saying, just excited overall for this program. Just year two in the SEC. Sark continue to do great things. If I'm not mistaken, I think they had the number one recruiting class.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
but just what they're doing, it's kind of like they're operating more like a NFL program,
Hmm.
not necessarily just going after the guys with all the stars, but more going for the guys of what they need and to replace the guys they need. And then when they do go into the transfer portal, they're basically like, we may need a younger guy to take another year to learn, and let's bring an older veteran guy in this area. But what they're doing, I mean, to bring in Makuba last year, to bring in Golden and Bolden to replace the veterans that left, but then also you got guys like Wingo who was able to get in and get some action. Moore who did some great things last year. I think the way that they're running the program is pretty much like you see in the National Football League, where we may have a young guy in this area, but we can go get a veteran for this 1 year to try to help mature these younger guys. But the way they're doing, the way they're operating, I think they're just moving on up from here on out. So I'm excited for Coach Akina to be a part of this program, and excited to see the new defensive back coach that came from Rutgers. And I talk to Jason McCourty and Devin McCourty all the time, who we see on on Sundays and joke about Rutgers, but we can't admit that Rutgers continuously put DBs in the National Football League and put great talent. So excited to see what he brings to the table, and also he's a Texas guy, and hopefully that those two can pair up and I guess kind of keep it at home. I mean, last year the secondary consisted of three guys locally here in the Austin area, which myself I'm biased to say that hey, you got to continue to keep it at home. And when I say home, not just the whole state of Texas, but Austin area also. But excited for these young men and excited to see what Taft does this year. Have another year, so very excited.
Yeah, I remember we had a conversation after the Juice tryouts at Maynard New Tech, I think in November or December. And you kind of brought up all the similarities that you shared with the guys you played with at Texas. Michael Huff, Ced Griffin, your brother, obviously, Aaron Ross, all them. And then a lot of y'all, for the most part, were kind of projects out of high school, but Akina wanted y'all for different reasons. Kind of just break that down to me. The blueprint, I guess, he used to get all of y'all to Austin, and also like why it worked with all y'all, why all of y'all were so successful.
Well, the crazy thing is, you look at Michael Huff, and he's my son's godfather, so he talks to my son a lot. My son talks to him. They're so similar, it's crazy. But uh, he said, he got offered, I believe, by Texas like a week before for signing day, and Huff was quiet but very smart player. Um, Very smart. I mean, we laugh and joke that he can't. If you ever notice, his interceptions is never in the middle of the field. It's always like break on a slant or something. So he just understands the game. And we always joked about he really can't catch, but for some reason, all his interceptions went for touchdowns. Cedric Griffin is just nasty. He was a guy that just go out there on the island, play tough. Very quiet, but just nasty player that just I mean, if you was going to have a draft, you're drafting him just for his attitude and the way he operated. Ross, very talented guy. Ross may have been, I would say, the best athlete that we had that was in that secondary. Just all around, some of the things he used to do, you just couldn't even like. I don't know how he even did it. Like you just didn't even know how he did it. I mean, you go back to the interception he had versus Iowa when he was supposed to be covering one guy and he just drops off and then he does this leaping like Superman interception, and you see why he won the Thorpe Award. And again, he was another. I would say probably the most athletic. Um, I would say I was the try hard guy. I was the guy that just listen. You know what? You tell me to do this, I'm just gonna go do it. Like I'm just every play I'm giving 100% on chasing the ball. If I didn't even have to throw my body in there, I'm still throwing my body in there just to try to get a little bit of piece of whatever. And then when it comes to special teams, which why I had those block punts. It was like people don't realize I was a starting gunner, started on kickoff, running to the ball. Wasn't the safety. I was the guy going to go get the ball. Punt return, I was blocking punts or holding up. And then kickoff return, sometimes I was on the front line blocking. Like that was me. And then I still started on defense at the same time. So I was the guy that's just like, you know what? Every opportunity I got to get on the field, that was what I was going to do. And then Terrell Brown was a technician. You could literally just play the whole you could literally, as a safety, I'm worrying about the other guys covering and say I don't have to worry about Terrell because he's a technician and he can just literally take a whole side by himself and just lock it down because he's going to play the right techniques. He's going to watch film. Everything is going to be perfect. If you want to know how to play the game, just watch him and watch his technique, and you'll just be amazed on just how good he was. So that was just somehow Coach Keena just put us all together. I mean, Terrell Brown was a running back. I was a running back. I believe Cedric Griffin was a real big, um, really good track guy. And his son also, shout out to Swade, um, who won the 110 hurdles last year and is going for a repeat. Just really big in the track. You could tell that was his first love. And when we was conditioning and stuff, that was like his thing to run all day. But um, just brought a bunch of guys in, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, whatever it was. It was like, hey, we're gonna put these pieces together. He really wanted Jamal Charles to come over there too. He said he had the best hips ever. and I can see why. And he said, hey, whenever y'all don't want to use Jamal, bring him to corner. We can let him play corner. But he just has a knack for putting guys, teaching us all, and then allowing us to be ourselves. And he always said, like, when you start making the mistakes and things of nature, then we're going to do it my way. But just allowed us to play football. And that's the one thing he loved about him was he was just a coach that taught us the game and allowed us to be ourselves and never micromanaged us. It was like, hey, y'all get the job done and wherever we got, and he go to bat for you. That's the one thing that he's going to go to war for you, and that's the one thing you loved about him, why each and every one of us loved him so much when we'll do anything for him.
For sure. Do you remember kind of what his recruiting like pitch was to you? Was that what made it Texas for you, or were you pretty much like being a local guy? Once they offered, you were going there no matter if I was
Man, you
coaching.
know what? Crazy story, and I tell people this all the time. I was originally committed to Texas A&M. I was committed to A&M because I always wanted to be a veterinarian, and I was one of those guys that, I promise you, I got my first offer. I committed right away. I got offered by the time it was Southwest Texas, so you know how old I am now. You probably don't even realize when it was Southwest Texas.
That's Texas State.
Yeah, I know it's Texas State now, but at the time it was Southwest Texas. So I remember they offered me, and then they even told me, like, hold on, listen, we offered you because we're trying to get on you quick, but we know you're going to have so many more opportunities. Coach Patterson, when he was at TCU, he offered me and Billy Pittman and was like, you could be the next LaDainian Tomlinson. Sold me the worst dream ever. And I was like, all right, cool. This and that. Then Baylor offered. I was like, cool, I'll play in the Big 12. And at the time, Baylor didn't win no games. But I was like, I'm going. And then A&M, R.C. Slocum and Sean Slocum, his son, we became really close. And I was like, oh, I liked it. People don't realize it was a movie long time ago called Sir Parker, and which was a player that played for Texas A&M, really good, talented player, and watched the movie and just fell in love with Texas A&M, and I think it was more because of the black cleats. At the time, Texas wore white cleats, and I couldn't stand white cleats, which is why another reason why I was in Tennessee, I could not stand it. We had to wear the white with the blue. I hated it, but I was up, but that didn't. As it got older, Texas started wearing black cleats with the orange uniforms and all white. Now they still just wear the white and orange. But I was committed to A&M, and they fired R.C. Slocum, and then that's when I, had a conversation with Mac Brown, and he offered me. I was already offered, but he basically told me, and he told my brother that, listen, I put you on as a preferred walk-on. We don't have enough scholarship offers for you right now, but you can come on and worked everything out where he had academic scholarships. And from there, my brother, people don't realize, he was actually, during the national championship game, he was the dime safety that came in, but he was a walk-on, kind of like the Michael Taft story, who earned a scholarship the following year. And my senior year, we both started alongside each other when it was his redshirt junior. I was his senior. But I remember initially I tried different positions. It was running back, and went in that room and saw Cedric Benson, and then didn't realize there was Selvin Young and Jamal Charles was on his way, and Eric Hardeman. I tell people all the time, Eric Hardeman, some things happened, but if he would have had the opportunity to play from Pflugerville, no doubt in my mind, and you could ask anybody, might have been one of the best running backs to ever play for the University of Texas. Freak of nature, freak. Receiver room, Billy Pittman, Gatewood, Lima Swede. I was like, I got to the room, and Coach Akina was like, it's about dang time you got here. And I remember he told me straight up, it was our first game. He said, there's no guarantee how much playing time you're going to get. So I was like, at the time, it wasn't the 4-game / you remove your red shirt. It was like you play one snap.
It's done.
And I went out there, and I remember my mom was so upset with me, like, what are you doing? Like, you're not. We had Dakari Pearson, Philip Giger, Michael Huff, Cedric Greer. Like, you're not going to play. And at that point, I'm like, hey, coach, I got to play special teams or something. I'm not going to waste this red shirt for nothing. And that's how my special teams career kind of took off, just because I used to pray for our offense to get stopped so I can go cover a punt, just because I'm going to play. Like, we're just sitting around it. But that's basically how my defensive back career took off, was just playing special teams. And then from there, I remember Dakari Pearson tore his labrum, and Philip Giger had to move back to free safety. and nobody knew the nickel position. And that's when I got to play against Iowa State. And then that's how my freshman year kind of took off, where I got to start a couple of games as a true freshman playing nickel and played a lot of snaps at nickel and then also special teams.
Got it. Got it. So seeing, a lot of Texas fans, they're happy that Duane Akina's back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a portion of the fan base that's a bit uneasy, considering he is an older guy. He is 68 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think can still make him successful at Texas, being that old of a guy? Because very rarely are guys, still in the coaching world at that age. What do you think he can do that'll make him successful in Austin?
I think the biggest thing is what people I think the track record, his history, his resume is what's going to speak. I think that's the biggest thing. Michael Huff being there, and Jade Barron and Michael Huff had a very strong relationship, and Jade wore number 7 last year. But what allowed Michael Huff to win the Thorpe Award and what allowed Aaron Ross to win the Thorpe Award was Coach Akina and what he's done. But also, I think you got the guys that these guys look up to, the guys that are, yeah, you got Jade Barron, yeah, you got Makuba. Going into the draft this year. Prior to that, you had Caden Stearns, you had some other guys. But if you go back through the history books of all the DBs that played, Cedric Griffin, Michael Huff, Aaron Ross, Terrell Brown, Kenny Vaccaro, Quandre Diggs, it's a long list of guys that played defensive back for the University of Texas, not to mention the other guys that played other positions, whether it's Derek Johnson, whether it's Brian Arakpo. You have a long list of guys that also witness what Duane Akina did. And I think that's what's going to help him, because he's not going to really have to say much. You're going to have a lot of guys that are successful, that have successful NFL careers, but also have successful college careers, and is still having success now after football. And that's going to be able to relay the message that he's going to be presenting to these young men, and because we all have been where these young men want to go. And I think Coach Akina, in my opinion, is he allowed us to be great fathers, great husbands, great men when it came to playing the game. And also after the game, what we are today is still doing a lot of great things. So I think despite the fact of being 68, which is a number, you still have a resume, and you're going to have a lot of people that's going to be able to vouch for you. And I think that's the biggest thing that's going to be able to help him deliver the message that he's delivering to these young men.
Yes, sir. So is it cool with you if we run a few minutes after 10:45, or
Oh,
you
yeah, you
got a busy
good.
schedule?
Man, I ain't got no job.
Okay, cool. Because I got 2 more for you. The first one, Texas. We keep bringing them up. Jade Barron, Drew Makuba. They were 2 huge, crucial pieces to the puzzle for Texas this year. Number 1 defense most of the year, and that's what set the tone and helped them win games when the offense was struggling, right? But Drew Makuba, Jade Barron, they're gone. And there's 2 guys that are very easy to pencil in as starters: Mookie Taft, Manny Muhammad. But what does the Texas secondary have to do to make sure the losses of Jade Barron and Drew Makuba aren't felt as much, that they can keep the whole thing going, moving, even with new DB coaches in place?
I'm gonna be honest. I think a lot of it has to stem with what happens up front, and I think you still have some pieces that are coming back, and then you have some other guys that are getting older. You got Simmons, who's going to be coming on year 2. He had a great year last year. Hill, who's a phenomenal linebacker. And then you still got Taft. You got Taft coming back, who has a lot of football under his belt, who we know he's a leader on and off the field. The guys love him. And I think that's going to be guys that got to step up. But at the same time, I think that's also you got Williams, who's coming back off the ACL. But again, he has 2 years of experience and playing time and being in that room. And I think the biggest thing is just the foundation of the entire defense. I tell you all the time, when I was at Texas, every year other teams or schools were stealing our defensive coordinators. And we had a new D coordinator damn near every year because every D coordinator was leaving. A lot of the position coaches were staying, but the D coordinator was leaving, and we was having to learn a different defense going into every season. Even a national championship year, we just learned that defense, Coach Chiswick. We just learned the defense that year, and we played that defense. And then we lost Derek Johnson the year that we lost him the year prior, going into the national championship year. So it had guys like Aaron Harris, guys like Andrew Kelson, Robert Killebrew, Rashad Bobineau. Guys had to step up because they were behind your Derek Johnsons. They was behind your other linebackers that were there. They had a lot of playing time. You know, you lost Marcus Tubbs. You lost Rod Wright was finally going to be a senior year Roger Wright was finally going to be a senior going into that year. Larry Dibbles was starting to get to play, but you had younger guys, Frank Ocam, who was coming into his own, learning the game and getting a lot of playing time. Brian Rackpo, who redshirted the year prior, who ended up getting freshman of the year in the Big 12, and then went on to win pretty much every award that you had when it came to becoming a defensive lineman or a linebacker or a defensive player. So you had a lot of guys that were sitting back waiting their opportunity. So I think that's what you're starting to see when you come to the recruiting process with Sark. You had a lot of guys that have been sitting back with Makuba, with Jade Barron, who's been there for a while, but you had guys that were behind him. Even Sorrell, the way they played last year, being that they was behind Sweat and those guys, it was finally their opportunity to play. So sometimes the best thing is not always you got to come in and play right away, but sometimes it's learning and maturing and becoming a young man and understanding how to play the game and understanding just becoming a college athlete and a student athlete at that. So sometimes it's best that you have those younger guys now going into year 2 or maybe year 3. It's better that they sat back and they waited and had some playing time. But the good thing is they're running the same defense. So guys like Gilbo has another opportunity to step up and become a bigger piece this year, which we saw that he played a lot of the nickel position last year and had some great film put out there. But now he's had that full year coming back off the ACL injury that he had his rookie year, and now being able to establish himself as one of the veterans. McDonald, Black, you know, I got a lot of guys that have the opportunity to step up. So I think collectively with Coach Akina and everybody else, I think as a group, they're going to have this off season that they've been doing, having great off seasons and being ready to step into the next year. And I think the same thing goes for the offensive side of the ball. You know, the best thing is that off season workout where you build. I think I like what Sark said about not really having a spring game because they did play pretty much an NFL football season. And to say that we're going to have spring ball, then have a spring game just for the entertainment, and we all seen what's happened in the last couple of years where um, after the spring game, the fans and are biased about who should start. And every year has been like, hey, Casey Thompson should start. And then, you know, Hudson Card looked better than yours. And then Malik Murphy should start over, you know, yours. And then it's Manning. I mean, come on, man. Like, listen, it's every year spring game, and we all know this when you're going against the same defense every day and knowing it's going to be nationally televised. As a defense, we're going to run our simple defense to see can y'all just go out there and just play. And on the offensive side of the ball is for them to have some excitement, chunk the ball downfield just to do it, and everybody gets excited. So I like what he's doing is just pretty much focus more on the team and get the team going and getting ready to prepare for another 16 or 17 game season next year.
Sir. And then my last one. You brought up recruiting. Want to talk about that for a little bit. There's a safety at a North Shore named Chase Calicut, who you've seen play. You saw him in 7-on-7 last spring.
He played for me a year ago, 2 years ago, and I told him you'd be in Texas. And he laughed, and I was like, he goes, if they toss, no, you're gonna be in Texas. He's amazing. I like him. I like him a lot. That he could. When I say he play football, can play football.
Yeah, I mean, I know it was a year ago and over in Houston. It was just one weekend that you got to coach him. But, you know, what do you like about his game and what he brings to the table as a DB? Because, you know, this is a guy who is predicted by, you know, myself to eventually end up at Texas. Obviously, they'll have to outlast Oregon, Michigan, Alabama, a few other teams. But I really do feel like Texas is in a good spot. But what does he bring to the table, as a 6'3", 190-pounder that can, pretty much do it all?
Man, it's when he, at the time he was young. I think he was maybe like 16 years old when I first seen him play, and long, very, very, very athletic. 6'3", 190, but moves like he's, like 6 foot, 150 pounds. So light on his feet. Um, Very athletic, great ball skills. Um, and the mindset, it's like you could tell he just loves the game of football. Like he's just happy playing football, just happy. Like and it's just and very great. The biggest thing is attitude. Great young man. Yes sir, no sir. Um, just love him as a kid. I mean, he was a great kid. I mean, it was the first time I got to coach him, had him on the team. Very smart, able to go out there and do a lot of things. Able to put him in a lot of different positions because he could do a lot of things. Um, I mean, one game it was like, hey, listen, that guy, you go guard a one-on-one the whole time. Everybody else, we're gonna do something totally different. But that's just he's just that type of guy, and I think that the sky's the limit for this young man. I think he's definitely somebody that has a bright career playing in college, and then I also think that he's one of those guys that got it that can play at the next level also.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you joining. I know it was a long weekend. You also had track on Saturday.
Yep.
But yeah, actually, talk about that for a little bit. Obviously Braylon Griffin, he's playing football, but your daughter like breaking every single record over at Lake Travis Middle School right now.
Man, it's yeah, that's my biggest headache too. I love her to death, but that's my headache. You ever have somebody that just like when I talk about, kids that just got it, she got it. It's just I when I try to bring her back down to earth, it's the fact that everybody else brings her back to like she's God's gift to earth, and I think it's just whew, Lord. But yeah, she's a freshman. Tomorrow night they play Westlake for the district, basically district title. Whoever wins that game pretty much wins district. She's a freshman, so first year starting on varsity. Um, in soccer, which is her main sport, but then I don't know how she just managed to just go out there and throw shot put. And so far, she's been getting second. She just got her PR. She threw 36.9. She got second. She lost about 4 inches from a girl outside West Texas. But she's still trying to get her form down. Her coaches, like, they practice like 30 minutes, but it's like she just she just blessed. She's just blessed. I keep telling her, like, if you can take this as far as you want to take it, it's all on you. But at the same time, she's just social butterfly, and she's just friend. I mean, if you look at her Snapchat or Instagram, or this is, I'm like, wow, oh, why do you talk to so many people? Like, I don't get it. But yeah, she's great. And my son, he's doing his thing. I mean, we're the same thing. It's just grinding it out. It's a lot different these years when it comes to like the whole recruiting thing or whatnot. People ask me would I ever want him to go to Texas, and I'm like, you know what? Nah, I want him to have his. Honestly, in my opinion, I want him to have his own life. Like I want him to pave his own way and to literally write his own chapter. Like you're writing your book right now, and I feel like I'm a part of that book. But right now, I want you to like go to the next season, as in like when you're watching the show, like next season, or if you're watching Game of Thrones, where you know dad dies off, and now it's time for you to start something totally different and go somewhere else. So, but I enjoy every bit of it watching these my kids playing, and I got my young one who's 7 who you know, I don't know what her itch is right now. She does a little bit of everything, but I enjoy it. I'm just a high dollar Uber driver that just puts miles on my cars left and right. So that's all I do is travel, travel, travel.
Awesome, man. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on. We'll got to get you on later on this spring, but yeah, give it up for Michael Griffin, Longhorn legend, NFL legend, and looking forward to the future, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day and week.
Yes, sir. You too. Thanks.